Welcome back, folks. Today I'm trying something a little bit different. Instead of doing like a day in the life where we do, a couple videos a week on what I'm doing in the shop, I think I'm going to do it once a week and kind of compile it all together. So we've got a little bit more content for you guys to enjoy on the end of the week, and doesn't get so repetitive for those of you who aren't really into this style of video. Today I'm going to be printing out a bunch of those sander holders for Amazon. I want to get 4 different colors available. And I've got the Festool Green from Bamboo. It's their PETG HF. So I also have the HF in yellow, red, and black. So I want to get all 4 of those colors available on Amazon for sale as quickly as possible. I've also been printing some miniature furniture. This is a project for my neighbor. I'll show you it in a little bit. Basically, he's creating an in-law suite in his basement, and he wants his mother and stepfather to be able to see how the kitchen is going to be laid out. So I printed a scale mock-up of that, and we'll dig into that in a little bit. I've actually been having quite a bit of fun with it. It brings me back to the days of building furniture. You're designing all of the toe kicks and the doors and the grooves and everything, and then you can print it out, and you've got this little scale model of something that will be a piece of furniture in the near future. It's just pretty cool. And I've got some PETG HF sander holders going right now on the 5M Pro. Well, actually just one on the 5M Pro. This one is, I guess, for all of you 3M or Milwaukee guys. And then over here on the A1 Mini, we've got one going for all of you DeWalt guys and gals. I also took a trip down to Micro Center a couple weeks ago at this point, and I picked up some of their inland filament. So this is a shimmer PLA that we're going to be testing out. Haven't really even opened it, to be honest with you. So they call it, color is BU red. It's supposed to have like a color changing effect to it, I guess. We're going to try that out on something. And then in one of my videos, we also referenced the company CookieCAD, or cookiecad.com, for creating your custom cookie cutters. Well, they also make filament. So I picked up some of their, what they call unicorn ABS filament, mainly because, well, I've got colors. I've got all these other colors here. I don't really need random colors, so I figured I'd pick up something that I don't have around the shop. And, well, it's a pretty cool looking, almost like a cotton candy, something like that. I don't know, we'll find some cool models on Maker World to print out in a little bit with some of this stuff. And this stuff is ABS, so I will be printing it over on the Adventurer 5M Pro, just because it's got the enclosed chamber, the carbon HEPA filter, and you really don't smell any of that toxic fumes that are coming out of there, because they're really being contained inside of the printer. I would still recommend cracking open a window if you're printing with ABS, but right now it's like 5 degrees and the wind is roaring, so we're going to leave them shut. And I've had some people say you don't need to dry ABS. I've had others say you do need to dry ABS. Honestly, I've never really worked with ABS, so I'm not too sure, but I'm going to give it the best possible chance at success, so we are going to throw it into the dryer. The PLA from Inland, I'm not too concerned about. It's PLA. Give it 6 hours, and that should do. This thing's pretty quick at heating up to temperature, and right now I've been keeping it in maintain mode, so it basically will turn on when it gets above 35% humidity, drop it down to 30, and just kind of keep that cycle going. So I just got the first print off of the Adventurer 5M Pro that I've done in the Bamboo Lab PETG HF. And it did have a little bit of lifting on the backside. I probably should have cleaned the build plate first. I'm running another one again, and we'll see how that one comes out. I've changed a little bit of the settings. The only thing I wasn't thrilled about was the overhang, or the steps here. The overhangs themselves look good, but the step-ups are just slightly more noticeable than they are with the Anycubic PETG. So we're going to run it again at a 0.18 millimeter layer height. Maybe that'll change it, maybe it won't. We're going to find out in a little bit, though. And I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I've been working on designing something for my neighbor for kind of like a in-law suite. So I printed out a bunch of these different cabinet sizes. These are actually designed off of those Hampton Bay Home Depot cabinets. They sell them in a bunch of different colors, options. I'll throw some up on screen now so you can kind of get an idea. So I printed out a bunch of different ones. The pantry, found a stove model online, and I printed that out. I added some burners on the top there. Obviously, the refrigerator. So essentially, if we're looking at it from this direction, there'll be a living room that comes off of this way, and it will lead into a bedroom over here. This is kind of an outside wall, and this is the kitchen area. Up through here will be a hallway that leads to a bathroom and an office possibly. Still working on that at the moment. But essentially this little corner here is going to be the kitchen. After talking with my neighbor, we figured this wall over here would be perfect for the stove and a Lazy Susan base. So you'll kind of have that little wrap around there. It's not a whole lot of countertop space, but it is a fairly small room. It's only about 16 by 14 feet, give or take. What I really took dimensions of was this area here, just to make sure that the kitchen, which is what they wanted this for in the first place, was as most accurate as it could be. What this really was to show you was that in a matter of a couple minutes, you can go from a design of a full-size 16 by 14 design inside of your Shaper or Fusion, Tinkercad, whichever you choose, and print them out in a couple of hours. I think this took about 5.5 hours. I found these models on the SketchUp 3D warehouse, and I opened them up in SketchUp and then selected each one of them individually and exported them as their own separate STLs. Then I could import them into Orca and scale them down to the appropriate size to fit our space. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more work like this in the future, whether it be for customers or just myself. I think it's really cool that you're able to take design of a room and then print all these little miniature figures. For instance, I can take this entire shop. Travis over at Shop Nation did that when he was building out his shop, and I thought that was a really neat idea. Sam Green from John Malecki's channel, he used to work on John Malecki's channel. He kind of did that with cardboard and little paper cutouts, but you know, there's many ways of doing it. I just happen to have these 3D printers, and before I did 3D printing, a lot of the work I did was focused on designing furniture inside of SketchUp or Shaper for the projects that I was building. So I was much more familiar with that aspect of it to begin with. What I think is really cool about this, aside from the fact that you can see it in real time and kind of move things around in scale instead of just looking at it on a piece of paper or on the computer, is you can actually print out floors or even go to the Home Depot and get a couple sample pieces of flooring that you might want to use in your house and throw it in there. Get an idea of what it'll look like. You can paint your cabinets the same color. You can find filament that's close to the paint color that you want to use. There's a lot of different options when it comes to 3D printing for scale mock-ups and stuff like this that I'm now just beginning to explore, and it's really opening a whole new world of ideas up for me in terms of things that I can not only design, but things that I can print and sell. So maybe we'll be doing more of these miniature things in the future. Not so much for things like a dollhouse or stuff like that, but more so along the lines of people who want to set up an office space, people who want to set up a garage, you want to set up a workshop, a hair salon. I'm sure there's a lot of different options out there, and those are just things that, off the top of my head I'm thinking of, mainly because, well, I need to get a haircut. And I did mention earlier that I'm testing the Petchy HF. Just a little bit more dialing in the settings on the FlashForge so we can start ramping up production on those ones. That being said, I still have, I still have this many left of the Anycubic. So I want to start getting these packed up and sent over to Amazon. That way the ones that I'm selling on Etsy going forward will all be the new, more accurate colors, I guess we'll call it, the less shiny out of the Petchy HF. But on Amazon, I've got probably 15 of these shiny ones still in stock, so I figure I might as well run them through. When they're gone, they're gone. I'll update the listing photos and we can get a new batch sent out in a more accurate color. When I do that, I'm also going to send out some of the black, yellow, and red at the same time. That way, all of those different colors will be available to purchase in the Amazon store and on Etsy. So I am revamping the website right now. If you haven't been there, it's mountainmakervt.com. That's going to be more geared towards the social media side, the YouTube stuff, just so I have kind of a place to put all the links to my different platforms. So we're going to be starting up a Patreon here pretty soon. I've had a lot of people in the comments request something like that, so I've kind of got that in the works in the background. I will still be selling some things on my website. There'll be more stuff like this, the stuff that I'm designing and modeling myself and making myself. All of the dumbbells, the pencil holders, stuff like that. I'm going to keep those kind of primarily to Etsy and have that kind of be its own side business. But I am excited going forward into 2025. I've been doing a lot more design work, and like with these this house here, I really want to start designing more furniture things that are miniature models. When I was looking on MakerWorld and Printables, all these different sites, the stuff I didn't see was miniature cabinets, mini TVs, fireplaces, stuff like that. So if you want to build like a scale model representation of your house before you move into it, you can design the actual body of the house, because that's something that I'm not going to be able to do for you. But to be able to go online and get a collection of furniture, I've seen some basic ones. I got these maybe on My Mini Factory or one of the other sites like that. But what I'm really looking to do is take some of those things that are everyday items around your house and make them into mini models that can be printed on either like an FDM printer or even a resin printer. I'm hoping to get one of those in a couple weeks to start testing out some of these mini models. So I haven't entirely decided what it is I'm going to put on Patreon yet. I know there are going to be like exclusive Patreon giveaways and stuff like that. Models that I design for things around the shop, I'll make those available if we use them in a video. Basic things like that, but still a lot more to come. I do want to do some Patreon exclusive live streams, Q&As and stuff like that. So if that's something you're interested in joining, head on over to our website. There'll be a link to the Patreon down in the description as well. Numerous ways you'll be able to find it. So I just pulled this off the build plate over on the A1 Mini. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it's got a nice matte sheen to it. I'm going to do some of these in 5-inch as well. I've got to find my 5-inch sander somewhere. I've got a couple of them sitting around, but I want to make sure that they actually fit the 5-inch sanders. I know they fit my 6-inch Festool, but I have not actually tested them with any other 6-inch sander than the Festool ETS EC150 or whatever that one over there is. I probably should print some of these out and go to Home Depot or something and just see how these all fit. Maybe we'll make that into a little video. Print a couple different variations of it so we can test fit it without having to buy a couple $1,000s worth of tools that I don't need. Gonna print more of these out on the A1 Minis. Might as well just restart A1 Mini 2 with another set of these. And I think I'm gonna get A1 Mini 1 set up to do Festool green, because why not? This is what happens when you put PETG in a filament dryer at 70 degrees Celsius and let it sit there on metal rollers for 12 hours. All right, it is the next day. These only take about an hour and a half each to print, so just non-stop and restarting that A1 Mini, getting these done. The Adventure 5M Pro has been printing them out in red, and I was using the yellow PETG HF for some testing on a new printer that we got into the shop the other day. So I've got the inland PLA loaded up into A1 Mini number 2. I'm gonna get onto MakerWorld and try and find some design that will show off the color of this BU red PLA. So I found this stainless katana sword print and place model from Mr. Andre over on MakerWorld. I chose to go with the 0.28 layer height one. When I imported it into Orca, I actually chose my 0.26 millimeter layer height profile, so it'll take about 118 grams in 3 hours and 43 minutes. All right, and our little sword finished up on the A1 Mini overnight. Got the little cap piece here. I'm actually gonna throw that on before I take it off. That way we don't lose our end there. That's pretty neat. Came out looking awesome. I do think this piece here is meant to be kind of snapped off based off of those little supports inside of there and then glued back onto here. But overall, we got ourselves a sword. We got that sword printed out, had a little bit of fun. Now let's get back to actually printing stuff out to sell. I've been running really low on black PLA over the last couple of days, been waiting on a shipment from Elegoo to come in, and it has finally arrived. And on Monday, I mentioned I wanted to get some more of those pencil sharpener holders printed out. Right now, I've got red, orange, yellow. I've got a lime green that is going out of stock because I'm not restocking that color. I've also got pink, purple, and then I've got 2 different shades of blue right now that I accidentally printed out. To be honest, I was trying to print some pink and the AMS thought I wanted to print blue, so I just rolled with it. So those will kind of be a special edition, I guess. But I do want to get that matte blue from Elegoo loaded up and printed out. I think I'm just going to load 4 of them up on the P1P because it's got a big enough build plate to do it. Then we can take some more photos. I want to get some updated listing photos of these because they're a couple months, actually, at this point they're about a year old almost. And I also need to take some updated listing photos of the sander holders. I need to find my 5-inch sanders so I can get some made for that size as well. Because I'm banking on most people having the 5-inch equivalent of a sander, an orbital sander, over the 6-inch. It's just a more common size. You can find them at Home Depot and Lowe's and stuff like that. So definitely going to be getting more of those printed out, but I want to get the sizing right before I, start production of them. All right, so I've loaded up Orca Slicer and my default profile for the pencil sharpener holders. I can actually fit 6 on the P1P build plate, which ends up being 845 grams. I think if you divide that down, let's see if we can fit another one on here, because I almost think we can get 7 out of this. That puts us at 985.37 grams. You know what? Let's make it interesting. At least it'll add some suspense to my day. And if it does run out, I think I can just load up another spool in there anyways. It's just a matter of what will I be doing at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Quality settings, basically the default 0.20 millimeter layer height. I have ironing turned on for the topmost surface, 20 millimeters per second with 20% flow at a 0.17 millimeter line spacing. Nothing fancy here. No supports. I've just got little mouse ears on there, which probably aren't necessary with the cryo grip, but we're rolling with it anyways. Bed leveling on, AMS on. Let's see if this measurement is actually accurate here, because I just unloaded a brand new spool. It should be 1,000 grams. We should be left with maybe what's left inside of the AMS line, probably. It'll be interesting nonetheless. Our 7 pencil holders are off to a good start. We've got about 19 hours left to go. So I found my little 5-inch Makita orbital sander. This thing is pretty top heavy, so this is going to be a good test. I really need to make sure the 5-inch size is going to fit. So using the 6-inch as a reference, I can see it's oversized in terms of the actual depth inside of here. So this portion here just needs to be shrunk down. I'm wondering if just scaling the entire thing will work for us, because this does obviously fit around the back of here, but then we're left with that 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch clearance there. So I think if we scale the entire model down in Orca to like 80–85% or something like that, print it out and see how it fits, that might be the easier route to go than remodeling the whole thing just for a 6-inch sander. I mean, orbital sanders are pretty universal. Like the sandpaper all fits on them. The only thing that might differ is the thickness of the pad. Like if you have a hard pad or a soft pad, that might be a little bit different. So we'll definitely have to get some test results done with this. And then when I have the 5-inch printed out and fit to this one, then I can take that, down to the home center or something and see how it fits around some of the other brands. And since this is a Makita, I went and loaded the closest color I had to that Makita blue green. This is like a dark blue from Hatchbox. Just finished up on the A1 Mini. Definitely needed to be dried first, but should still work for getting us our test. That fits in there. It is slightly too tall still, I think. So we set the sanding pad to see if that makes a difference. Yeah, that kind of centers it a little more. So it is slightly too wide still. You can see that 130 millimeters maybe needs to be shrunk right down to like 127. So let's get back into Orca, do a little bit more modifications, and get another one of these printed out. So our last one was 84%. I think if we can slice this in at 82%, so that shrunk us 3 millimeters overall on the x-axis. Let's run this and see what we get. Okay, obviously not the cleanest print once again. I still didn't dry that PETG, I just kind of reran it. But that fits in there really nice. It's strong. Like, I'd break the pad off the sander before I'm gonna pop this off. Obviously I need to resize these screws or move them down because scaling it didn't work. So I think I am gonna pull this into shaper and actually just remodel it with this sizing in mind. That way we can space these out a little bit. I do need to make these a little bit bigger because one thing I noticed was the screws had to thread themselves into there. But that works really well. I'm curious if this is going to fit other 5-inch sanders though. I also need to get some new pictures of our sander holders. Right now I've got some yellow, red, and that Festool green. I need to get some new pictures of the Festool mounted on it and then just put those other color options up for now. I need to order more of that Hatchbox PETG for the Makita color, but I can't get that one listed as well because I know that's a good fit. And to take all these pictures, I'm just going to use the camera that I normally film with. So essentially all I'm doing is moving this light around into a couple different places, lining up my camera to get some good shots. I get a couple with the product in here, and then I can take it out and just get a couple of the actual item itself. This process is kind of more about personal preference and how you are envisioning your product to look. I like to take a bunch of different pictures from a bunch of different angles, and it won't be perfect. As long as you can get enough photos so the customer can see what it is, you'll be set. I also took a video of me installing the sander holder onto the bench. That way they can see how easy it is to install and slide your sander right into place. I'd like to try and get one shot of this with the CNC in the background, if at all possible. So I think the 4,000 or so photos that I just took should be okay. But let's get them loaded up into the computer, get some white backgrounds on them so we can use them on Amazon. And then for the ones that are in Etsy, we'll just get them updated with these actual photos. Let's go into Etsy and update some of our listing photos. We've got our updated listing photos, our updated thumbnail photo. I don't know if I'm super keen on that photo there. Maybe we can try this one and see how this works. It is a better picture, although it might seem like you're selling this, but nonetheless, we've got our listing photo that is the more accurate color. Next, I need to get the photos updated in Amazon, and oh boy, looks like I've only got one left available in FBA. That is not good. Right now, the only photos I have in here are these 3. So let's get back into here. We can go edit listing. I want this one for my new thumbnail. All right, so now I've got my updated listing photos. I can hit save and finish. It'll take a little while for them to approve that and get it all updated, but this has me realizing I need to get some of these sent out to Amazon. Let's print ourselves 20 of them just for the heck of it. Getting things packaged up for Amazon is a pretty straightforward process, just like packing everything else up. I'm just gonna count out how many bags I'm gonna need for each of our sander holders here. All right, so I've picked out 12 here, and then each of them can just go into one of these bags. These guys are 7 1/4 by 9-inch bags. I pick them up in a pack of 100. It's about $33 now on Amazon. They used to be, somewhere around 20, so they've gone up significantly in price. And this was October or November time frame. They jumped about $10, probably due to the holidays coming up. I know when I went to get them last, it was around $33 for the 100 of them. But they're by far the best bubble bags that I've found. I've used these in the past, the bubbles on the outside, so it doesn't really cushion the inside and it makes things hard to stick to it. Whereas with these ones, the bubble padding is on the inside protecting the product and the outside is more smooth. These are far better for Amazon. So I had a couple people ask some questions about how much you're actually making from Amazon after everything is all said and done. And I did a full breakdown for the dumbbell business card holders and those coasters over on Patreon. If you're interested in seeing that, I'll link that down in the description below. Essentially, he's like, well, Amazon takes all these fees plus the monthly charge. How are you actually making anything? Well, I do this once for however many items that I'm going to send out, and then I don't have to put any more time and effort into it. Amazon will take care of the rest. So I can just print these, spend all of 5 seconds placing them in a bag, another 5 seconds placing a label on them, and another 5 seconds placing them into a box. So all in all, you're adding like 15 seconds, 20 seconds of my time to package these things up. It's not a big number. I think it costs $62.50 if you take into consideration the hour or so, hour and a half that I spent packing up those dumbbells. And even after that, our overall net profit after Amazon fees and paying me for my time doing this was like $1,200. And that includes the cost of the materials. Labeling everything is just as easy. We printed out 20 labels on our label printer. I'm only going to use 12 today. I'm just going to stick it on the back over top of this seal here, and then they can get set aside and loaded up into our box. And I can save these for next time. I'm going to line the bottom of it with a couple pieces of bubble wrap, and we can load each one up. These happen to fit in here just perfect if you load them up sideways. All right, I've got some extra room in here, so we're just going to fill this with some packing paper. Close it up. All right, we can get a weight on it now. Looking like 2 pounds, 1 ounce. I'll put in there probably just 3 pounds. And then our size is 12 inches by 7 inches by 10 inches. So now we can go get all this information into the computer and get our labels printed out. All right, and we know our box is, everything's in one box. That was 12 by 7 by 9. And it weighed 3 pounds. You can see this isn't going to cost very much at all. It doesn't weigh much and it's not very big. And then we can put our FBA label on the side of the box. And I'll just throw the shipping label up top. And these 12 are ready to go to an Amazon warehouse. Oh boy, this guy finished up overnight. Overall, they don't look bad at all. There's some maybe some calibrations I need to run as far as the resonance on the P1P. I don't know if you can see it on camera. And my microphone is stuck to the build plate. So yeah, let's get these guys off the build plate here and get some photos. That's my goal for today, is to get updated listing photos of all of these guys. And if any of you were curious how much filament we have left, I mean, there's probably about 30 or 40 grams left on there if I had to guess. So every once in a while I get this issue when I'm trying to iron stuff, and it happens on all of the machines. It kind of gives it like that under extruded or rough texture there, but it didn't happen on every single one of them. Like, that's nice and smooth. That one's pretty good. Got a little bit of over extrusion or something on that corner there, but this one really got it. These 4 seem to be okay. These 2 are definitely a little bit rough on the top there. Most of the stringing should come off with a torch. The other thing I have to do today, aside from getting these pictures taken and updated on Etsy, is get more Hatchbox PETG ordered from Amazon so I can get more of the Makita color printed out. Last night I was able to get a successful print out of this. I just tweaked some of the cooling settings and everything came out looking great. Before I can get any pictures of these, obviously got to get covers on them. Essentially, these just slide in here and get glued into place. After some recommendations from a couple of viewers, I've went ahead and included the screw with this piece here. The only reason I kept it before was it was another extra added layer of security. If the glue ever came loose, it was threaded into this hole. But the only way this thing is really going to come loose is if somebody comes here and starts prying up on it. And this isn't a tiny piece, so I'm not too worried about it. Let's get all these little mouse ears off here. I started using these little mouse ear brims because I was having trouble with this particular print lifting off of the build plate. I don't need them anymore using the cryo grip or the super tack plate, but the file is sliced for that, and I never took them off. On the A1 minis I tend to use them, and any prints with the textured PEI with these, because they take so long to print, they just have a tendency to start lifting in the corners, and that causes more artifacts on the actual print piece. Alright, so that one that had some rough texture on the top here didn't come out all that bad after hitting it with the torch. So we've got 6 out of the 7 that we produced that I'm gonna sell. So I've showed this before, but for those of you who haven't seen it, all I'm using is super glue, or cyanoacrylate, it's a fancy name for it, and this is just Cyafixed medium viscosity. Anything thicker than the medium tends to be too thick for some of the 3D printed parts, so I just like to not get that close, because what's going to happen is it's going to end up squeezing out the bottom. But typically I'll just go around the edge and stop a little ways from the bottom anyway, so any squeeze out doesn't get on it. And then I'll spray our piece here with some activator, and that essentially is an instant cure for this. So I'll lay it down on there and press it against the corners as good as I can. And if I hold this here, I typically say 3 to 5 seconds, but I probably hold it more like 10 seconds. Let it sit there. Then I come back and we'll spray the top and the bottom again, and that'll just get any of the glue that is in this crevice or that happens to seep out that bottom part there. It'll dry it up nicely. This is stuck on there now. It's not coming off. I'm going to do that with a couple of the other colors so we can get some updated listing photos. So taking pictures of these is the same process as it was to take pictures of the sander holders. I'm just going to put some pens and pencils inside of them, take a couple different photos from a few different angles, and get them posted up onto Etsy. Going to use Photoroom again for editing. I'll have a link down in the description below for Photoroom and Canva. They're two of the most popular online editing softwares, I guess, and I use both of them for different reasons. So if you're interested in trying them out, both of them offer free trials of some sort. I'll link them down in the description below. Just finished taking the photos of all 6 of these pencil sharpeners. I'm going to get them into Photoroom and start editing some of these. I'm going to be pretty basic. I think I'm just going to leave a white background, and I've also taken a picture with all of the pencils in each of the cups and individually cut them together so it looks like all the pencil cups are filled with pencils. All right, so I've got my listing photos updated in Etsy now to the colors we have in stock. I'm just trying for a basic white background this time around instead of trying to put in the AI wood background. We're going to see how this works. The color for this one is a little bit off on the picture that I took with the pencils in it. You can see it shows up all right here, and in this one it shows up okay. But here, when I actually went to take the picture, it just doesn't quite look right. So I opted to use this one instead for the navy blue. So I've been having some issues with the A1 Mini getting the dumbbell ends to stick, and these are pretty important to keep printing. So I decided to load them up on the Plus 4, and 15 hours and 9 minutes later, we've got about 47 minutes left to go. This is 8 total, so it'd be about 8 hours per set of 4, which is about equivalent to what the A1 Mini can produce them at. I'm not really sure what's going on with this one. I've tried slicing a lot of stuff recently for the textured PEI plate that I've printed 100 times over, and they've just been lifting off the build plate, so I'm not really sure what is up with that. Using the Super Tack plate, everything works fine, but as soon as I throw like even one of these onto a textured plate, I get about halfway through and then it lifts off. And I've cleaned this, I don't know how many different times. I've swapped sheets. And this is probably the 4th run. I actually haven't gotten any of the dumbbell ends out of this spool yet. They've all been a failure. And right now we're just below 700 grams, so we'll see how this one comes out. I've never ever had an issue with these coming off the build plate before. They've lifted a little bit, but it seems like it's just catching on these 2 ones here or a couple of the other ones and just pulling them off the build plate, and then I can't go around and skip and say, hey, I don't want those 2 anymore. It just causes a whole failure. You can see the last one that it failed on must have been this one. It caught somewhere on here, possibly from over extruding or something, but this is the 2nd set of these that I went to print on that A1 Mini over the last couple days. And they ruined, but using the same exact Elegoo standard PLA over on the +4, we're 15 hours in and still going strong. I've had a little bit of lifting on the build plate over here, but I'm not too worried about that coming off in the next 47 minutes. So I've got an order here for 2 English Bulldog keychains. I just realized I only have them in 1 color. I've got this color, but the one that the customer ordered is that lighter one. So I'm gonna get the P1P loaded up with some lighter tan, probably this stuff here, Overture. It's a matte PLA, and then white and black. So let's get this pink swapped out for the tan. And the reason I'm using the P1P over here instead of the A1 Mini with the AMS, like, you know, back there, because I'm using the cryo grip plate on the P1P and I don't have one for the A1 Mini that I actually like. I do have the Super Tack plate, but that's what I'm printing all of those sander holders on, so I kind of screwed myself there. So yeah, we're going to use the P1P instead. I've got the Overture matte PLA loaded up into there. I'm going to get onto Orca Slicer now, and we're going to slice these up. I think I'm going to do like, I don't know, 15 of them. Just knock them out, fill a build plate up, see how many we can get done. And just to test it out, I did start another print here. I changed it to gyroid infill instead of adaptive cubic to see if that makes a difference in terms of it knocking it off the build plate. It's always been adaptive cubic, but maybe it changed. We are getting lifting on all the corners, but I don't see any over extrusion or anything that would cause me to think it's going to pop off. It looks like we've got about 3 hours and 24 minutes left. One thing that does scare me a little is it's not quite to the point where this one fell off. We'll keep an eye on it though. English Bulldogs though, got those started up on the P1P. These are going to take about 16 more hours to complete. They've already done a couple of filament changes for the black for some random reason. But this cryo grip plate, I don't think I've ever washed it, ever. And it's still sticking strong. And I've got this thing loaded up to print 2 at a time now that we've got our settings dialed in for that. Hopefully we can batch more of these out since we just sent all of them to Amazon. And that's where I'm gonna wrap this one up, believe it or not. Aside from filming this video and editing this all week, I've also been filming and editing 2 other videos that are either out or will be out depending on when you watch this. If you enjoyed this style of video, the more week style, I guess, throwing in bits and pieces from each day, let me know down in the comments below and we'll keep doing this. If you prefer the standard day in the life, 10, 15, 20-minute video, let me know that as well. Links to all of the machines, filament, and packing materials that I used today are down in the description below. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next one. Speaking of next ones, I've got another one queued up for you right here. Until next time, everybody, take care.